Hi, my name is Varun, and I was born and brought up in New Delhi, India. So when I moved to the States, I faced a rather large cultural shock. I mean, things were pretty strange, and one of the strangest concepts I was introduced to was this thing called YOLO. And I believe it was coined by a rather wise philosopher by the name of Drake. And Drake said this stands for "you only live once." And at the time, it seemed absurd to me, but at the time, so did everything else. I didn't understand why, as a college student in America, I was morally obligated to tip every taxi driver I met, or why all of my calculations had to be done in Fahrenheit. So there were bigger life questions I was trying to answer. And anyhow, I think as I became a senior and wisdom dawned on me, which is not true, I realized YOLO is actually a pretty powerful concept. YOLO actually means a lot more than you only live once. And as my friends in the audience will attest, I use it as my catch-all nirvana phrase. That is, YOLO, go hang out with your friends. YOLO, live in the moment and do something you're passionate about. YOLO, let's have some fun. And I think my biggest takeaway in today's speech is going to be the way CMC is structured, and given the way students are on campus, we have an inherent sense of YOLO-ness. That is, CMC will always cultivate the YOLOers and teach us to YOLO regardless of changing alcohol or academic policies, and it's rooted within our social scene. But before that, the big question. What is CMC's social scene? And when I started thinking about this question myself, I started doing some research. And I went to the Forum for Future website because that was the holy Bible for this. And the first thing I saw on the screen was, let's talk about CMC's changing social policies. Let's talk about the changing attitude towards alcohol, sexual assault, and academic dishonesty. I was pretty appalled by this, but I started asking more and more people. So I asked my friends, what do you think of CMC's social scene? And the responses I got were, bro, I can't believe TNC was cordoned off. Or, holy crap, there were only 3 kegs at Pirate Party. Or, I'm so excited to go hard at Monte Carlo tonight. I mean, I am too, and we've got to hide that from the footage because my mom's going to see it. But I think there's a bigger problem here. This problem is twofold. First off, I think the biggest challenge with something like this is when we as students perceive our social scene in terms of alcohol, and when authorities start telling us your social scene is your Thursday and Saturday nightlife, there's an implicit pressure on us, right? If I want to fit into CMC, I should go out on a Thursday or a Saturday, but because this is the social scene, I should have so much fun. I should take those 3 extra shots, or I should try to hook up with someone simply because this is the social scene and I want to fit in. I think that's problematic. But the second one is even bigger, which is it's simply untrue. When I look back at my CMC experience, or I talk to any alumni who's graduated, I ask them, what do you remember most about CMC? The responses I get are the time we were goofing off with our friends in our room, the time I went for that crazy debate tournament, the time I met that cute girl when we were just chilling on Green Beach and had brunch at Collins. The alcoholic times are simply not part of our strongest memories on campus. I mean, A, because we can't remember a lot of them, but on a serious note, simply because our CMC experience is so much more expansive. It means so much more. And that's why I urge all of us to change the way we define social scene, to move away from alcohol, because that's such a small add-on to our social scene, and talk about the YOLO-ness on campus, to focus on the YOLO side of campus and start creating a way to make that more inclusive. And I think automatically, as we shift the focus to this other broader and more true social scene, the pressure associated with that alcoholic part reduces. Now, what is YOLO-ness? I've put it as this catch-all phrase, but for me it means 3 big things. I think everyone has their own definition of it, but I'm going to talk about 3 things that mean a lot to me. The first is CMC creates a culture of YOLO-ness by forcing pretty much unforgettable, random, and unexpected friendships. And some of you will have heard this story, but the one I like to refer to is when I came to CMC, I was obviously this lost case. Not that things have changed, but I had no idea what was going on. Right? I was this naive, innocent, shy Indian boy, and as required, I filled out the rooming form. I get this email, and I'm told my roommate is this guy called Tyler Stanek. And as every diligent Indian household would do, my grandmom, my mom, my granddad, we all came around Facebook and stalked this guy. And to our horror, not only was he just good-looking as hell, this guy was 6'2". He played American football, not actual football, but the kind of football where you jump on each other, try to get the other guy down, and that's how you get points. So I had watched enough American movies to know, holy Jesus, this guy's gonna have ladies back every day. This guy's gonna hold me up against lockers and just beat me up with his football friends. That's a problem. Anyhow, long story short is Tyler and I became best friends. That's Tyler and me at Boiling Crab. Both of us are sober out of our minds. The spices didn't go so well for him. But we roomed together freshman year, we roomed together sophomore year, junior year. For God's sake, I'm in a double with Tyler in Phillips my senior year. A lot of people are worried about the bromance, but I think the bigger question is, how did some random guy from India become such good friends with a football player who lives in Irvine? And the mantra is because CMC enables us to YOLO. Because CMC creates this culture where I could bond with Tyler. And I know everyone has stories like those, and I'm doing really badly on time, so I'm going to rush through the rest. The second is the story about opportunities. And the one thing the economist in me likes to say is, there are huge per capita opportunities on campus. That is, there are so many opportunities, but such few students, right? So all of us have access to a lot. And I know, for instance, I was in New York this weekend traveling for a concert and a conference. Thank you to the board of directors for funding that. But I think students have opportunities to travel quite a bit on campus. But the kinds of opportunities you have are much deeper than that. You have the ability to make a much broader impact. And this is a story about Christine. Christine was a freshman last year, and she was passionate about rekindling her Korean roots. So she talked to people on campus, said she wanted to do this, got $5,000 from CMC and spent her summer in Korea tutoring North Korean refugees. This is a letter that someone sent her. I think that's pretty passionate, that's pretty meaningful, and that's the kind of social scene and social interaction we want to talk about. And there are so many stories like this. I know Byron was in Uganda this summer, and he's now providing clean drinking water to some 5,000 people. I know Costa biked from one end of America to the other just because CMC supported him. Why can't we start talking about things like these? When we are asked how's the social scene, why can't we answer with things such as these? The third big story, and I had to do this, is called John out. So I've been really unwell this week. I was not going to give this talk, and then John Ferranda had a stern talking to me and said, you will get on stage and you will do this. And I had to listen to John, not only because he's John Ferranda, but because he means so much to me. The story here goes is, when I came into college, I came a couple of weeks early because I wasn't with my family, I'd come on my own, I had to figure out ghastly things such as social security, bank account, etc. So John volunteered to house me at the time, and I think he's still regretting it, but anyway, I stayed with John and we became really close. In fact, the bedding in my room was bought by John at Target. I need to change that. The lamppost in my room was bought by John. John and I become very good friends, and John is a faculty member over here. I think that's pretty incredible. In fact, my mom and John talk on a couple of bi-monthly basis just to chat about life. Like, my mom's going to ask him the big life questions. Has he gone crazy yet? More importantly, has he driven everyone else crazy yet? I saw him on Skype, his hair's too long. And as a result of which, John and I go for haircuts every month just because, and I missed our monthly haircut, that's why I look this way. But the bigger story here is, at how many places could you meet someone in the faculty and get so close to them? I think that's pretty YOLO-tastic. And I know 10 years from now when my actually no, I hope I don't have grandchildren 10 years from now. 40 or 50 years from now when my grandchildren and my great-grandchildren ask me, Varun, what do you remember most about CMC? What are the things that matter to you? I know I'm always going to throw out the John story because that's the truthfulness of my social scene. That's what really matters to me. So preachiness aside, what am I here to talk to everyone about? I think CMC is an incredible place. We came here for a couple of reasons. We didn't come here for the Thursday and Saturday nightlife, no matter how awesome it is, and I completely espouse that as well. We came here because of the opportunities, the people, the friendships, and the relationships. But for some reason, we define our experiences here in terms of alcohol. And by defining our experiences in terms of alcohol, we put this implicit pressure on students to enjoy themselves within the realm of alcohol. The moment, and this is my urge to everyone, the moment we start talking about social scene, let's talk about the more important, the bigger aspects of it. And I think all of a sudden, we'll see students focusing on other things in of themselves, and as a result, the high-risk drinking, the 3 extra fireball shots, Eli. The 3 extra fireball shots, all of that is going to reduce drastically. So let's really figure out what YOLOing means to us and shift the conversation and our definition, both informally as students, but formally on the website for Forum for the Future, or the way authorities perceive what the social scene at CMC is.